12 years ago, I was with my now former fiancée for 3 years. I saw that she was trying to control me a lot. She wanted to know everything about my day and my plans ahead of time. If I did something different, she would get really mad. She said it was because she felt bad and was worried about cheating based on what happened in her past relationships. I never cheated or did anything wrong, so her behavior didn't make sense. It didn't seem right for my fiancée to act like that. About the schedule, she had been acting strangely for a while. In the past, I could tell her that I'm taking a specific day off and she would happily make plans with me without any problems. But towards the end of our relationship, she would seem annoyed when I asked her, or she would say she already had plans and didn't want to change them. Then she would try to convince me to work extra hours to save money for our wedding. There were also times when I said I would come over to drop off something and she would suggest not to bother and that she would pick it up at a certain time. Although she technically lives with her mother, she spends several nights a week at my place. Now, here's where things get interesting. After she asked for my schedule to make plans, which is busier than hers, I noticed she was texting someone else. In my job, if I work more than 40 hours, I can choose to take time off later. I am close friends with her brother, and we still are. We joke about this now, and he keeps reminding her about it. I texted him saying I wanted to plan something nice for her before our anniversary to make it a special surprise. The surprise was a nice hotel in Chicago, going to a White Sox game, visiting a science museum, and eating at the best sushi place in town. Not the most expensive one though. She and her brother worked at the same place where they make things. He made things and she managed shipping. He was nice enough to tell me her schedule. This is where things get tricky. Without me knowing, she was skipping extra work hours. She worked long days from Monday to Friday for 12 hours each day, except on Wednesdays when she only worked half the day. Around the time she started being very controlling, she began taking Wednesdays off. Luckily, I had saved up some days off, so it was okay for me to take a Wednesdays off. A few days passed, and Wednesday came. I put on my work clothes and left for work. I thought she would also leave because our apartment complex had 2 exits on the same road. I could see right across from a shopping area, so I parked my car in the back and waited. About an hour later, I saw a very specific red Mustang car with a specific sticker on the back window. It belongs to her cousin through marriage, the nephew of her stepfather. Their connection is deeper than just family. They grew up together very closely, like brothers and sisters. He always referred to her as sis. I also took some steps to prepare. We had an old laptop on our desk in an area where we could see the living room, the bedroom door, the bathroom, and the kitchen. I set up this laptop for remote access and set it to notify me if the webcam detected any movement. The laptop was an Acer Aspire 7720. It had a program that kept the webcam on and would send me an email if there is any motion in the visible area. Back then, the webcam didn't send notification. The laptop had a special program that watched for any changes on the screen. When the webcam saw movement, it would give a message. That's when I used remote access to see the live video. The other program was called TeamViewer. It's like an early version of something like Meets. It was mostly used in IT to connect remotely or to show how to fix something. All you needed was an IP address or a link to send the video directly to another person. Back in those days, live streaming wasn't a thing, and I was using a program called TeamViewer that was on my laptop. This program lets me send a video of what was on your screen to others, so you could show them how you do things on your computer. It wasn't great quality at all, haha. It was really choppy, like only 10 frames per second. But all I needed to see was a few movements and faces to understand what was happening on the screen. Giving her the benefit of the doubt, I thought maybe he was visiting to drop something off or help her with something, like her family usually does. Right then, I got a message, so I used my laptop remotely. He walked in without any hesitation, and she started to undo his shirt and kiss him. I made a special web link for the live video. While she was busy, I created a group text with family and another with friends. This was all done with TeamViewer, a $149.99 per month internet connection that had a speed of 50 megabytes per second, and they had smartphones. The link opened on a browser. The link was about my ex, being intimate with her cousin in my apartment. They had to click on it to see it. Not everyone in her family. Her mom, aunts were good with technology. Her brother was at work and couldn't check it, and her sister was in the same situation. Her cousins didn't have smartphone back then. Our group of friends though, oh boy, we were a young bunch of adults, and most of us were quite familiar with smartphones and had Wi-Fi. Back in those days, you could only have up to 10 people in a group text. If you had Sprint or Nextel, it was really chaotic, but all of us in the area had AT&T. My backup software could save picture messages, and back then, group texts were saved as individual messages, so it was a bit of a mess. Plus, at that time, the software didn't save media messages. My ex and her cousin were both part of the group text, but at that moment, they were busy and didn't check their phones. They didn't even wait. They could have gone to the bedroom, but no, they decided to get intimate right there on the couch. I shared the web link, friend group chat, and the family group chat. Her grandma was in the family group chat too, but she was too old to understand how to use it. In just a few minutes, my phone started ringing constantly with calls from both friends and family. There was no way to undo what had been done. Her phone was buzzing like crazy, but she was ignoring it. It wasn't until the fourth or fifth call that they decided to pause their activities for a bit. I sent a text to the group that said something like, Kitty, not her real name, but close, is involved with Doobie, not his real name, in my apartment. It's important to know that where I live, I can record things inside my home. I was the only one with legal rights to live there. She wasn't listed on the lease, and he didn't live in the same place either, so she didn't have permission to bring him into my place. Just so you understand, the state I'm in lets me record my personal space, even if others weren't officially staying there. I was the only person on the lease because she had a special arrangement with her mom's house. This happened because she had to do probation for something silly and couldn't be on the lease due to that. She didn't live in my place. She only stayed with me a few nights every week. My schedule was busier, mostly in the afternoons and evenings. On paper, and for her probation requirements, she officially lived with her mother. Her ID, probation officer records, and the fact that she didn't get any mail there or keep her belongings there shows this. She just left a few changes of clothes and personal things there. She was on probation without a specific duration, and it lasted for 6 months, along with community service. The reason she was put on probation was unfair because of how it happened. Her previous boss had told her to take a deposit to the bank for the money they got that week, but somehow the bag with the money went missing. During that time, she had planned a trip to a nearby state for a festival, and I paid for it. Her boss assumed that she used the money for the trip, even though I actually paid for it. When we returned from the trip, they accused her, and she was charged with a crime. The bag with the deposit fell down between the car seat and the console. It got stuck between the sliding part and tore when someone moved the seat. As soon as we found the bag, we returned it. We explained what happened, and even though all the money was there, some was damaged. The owner, who was a grumpy HVAC person, didn't agree and still accused her. The judge, however, was more understanding, especially after we provided evidence and showed that I paid for everything. He basically told her that if she stayed out of trouble and did what she was asked, he would make the charge go away. She did a lot of community work, which helped her case. She wasn't listed on the lease agreement, and she had a different address for receiving mail, which she considered her main home. She couldn't prove she was an official tenant. She was on parole for what seemed like unfair charge. It was something like serving 6 months and doing 160 hours of community service. Regarding the location where this story took place, it's not Alabama. It's a bit unusual. It's a collection of small towns really close to each other. Imagine about 5 or 6 farming towns right next to each other. Beyond that are just farm fields. Then there are several nuclear facilities in the surrounding area. This place was a major electricity source for the Chicago metropolitan region. They only stopped having X when she got a call from her cousin's mother, who she was banging. She answers the phone on speaker, and I kid you not, the first words out of his mother's mouth were, "Stop effing my son." They both became rigid, and she began to stutter over her words, saying, "What are you talking about?" etc. The mother then divulged that they were on a live feed that was sent out by me to her family. She grabbed every pillow on the couch and covered herself up. She was part of the group text and saw the message. She opened it and quickly realized where the video was coming from, so she closed it. The cousin tried to get dressed in a hurry and stumbled and hit his head on my coffee table, making a dent in it. Meanwhile, I had walked to the front of the apartment complex to meet him as he left. He saw me, froze, and started crying while saying sorry many times. I have to admit, what I did next wasn't my best choice, and I almost got into legal trouble. It was only because he was on private property without permission that things didn't escalate further. The apartment had no trespassing sign every 30 feet. We ended up fighting each other. I broke his tooth, nose, and the bone around his eye. His face caused my hand to break, and he hit my ear and the side of my head so hard and made my ear look different and split. I had to wear a cast for 6 weeks, and he didn't show up in family photos for a long time. It's important to mention that I also faced consequences for attacking him. He had lived a wild lifestyle, and he would face trouble as well. I got hurt too, but he definitely got the worst of it. When the police came, they realized I was the only one who had the right to be there. He decided to cancel the assault charges he filed against me. In response, I also dropped the charges I had against him. I talked to the apartment management, and they agreed not to continue with the criminal trespassing case against him. Neither he nor my ex were tenants at the apartments. He was already facing trouble due to previous problems, and he didn't want to make things worse. In the fight, I hurt my hand, got a swollen lip, and my ear split, while he ended up with a front tooth missing, a broken nose, and a hurt eye socket. Afterwards, I went to the apartment where she was dressed and crying a lot. I asked her if it was snot or cum on her face. Then I told her not to answer because it didn't matter anyway. I gave her an hour to remove all her belongings, as again, everything in the apartment was mine except for clothes, some makeup, and a few kitchen utensils. Her mother wouldn't allow her to move in due to feeling embarrassed. Her brother felt the same, and the cousin's mother even kicked her own son out. The news about what happened spread quickly in our town, and to put it simply, she became someone people avoided. On another note, she even attempted to have my cat put to sleep as a way to get back at me. I had to report this incident to the police. I did mention earlier that I almost got charged with assault, along with her cousin, because we physically fought. I also didn't tell you that I faced an sexual harassment charge, which has been dropped because of my actions in sharing the video with her family. Note that revenge porn wasn't against the law in 2001 to 2012, not even until 2005. Otherwise, it's a gray area, although I didn't record the X, so I don't think you can consider that revenge porn. Unfortunately, she was already on probation on trivial charge, and my actions made her situation worse. I am not trying to paint myself as innocent, but I am skilled at making sure I settle things in a tit-for-tat manner. A few years later, I was dating my now wife when we returned from the area to celebrate my birthday. My ex was going to different bars and was very drunk when she approached me, wanting to make things right for what she had done. I told her to go away in a not so kind words. She began to cry, got upset, and threw a drink at me. My now wife pulled her outside by her hair and gave her a strong slap. We had 3 more encounters after this incident. She wouldn't return my key and even took my cat and attempted to have it put down. I had microchipped the cat before we started our relationship. The vet reached out to me to confirm, as she wasn't the person listed on the microchip. I intervened before he took any action. But before he did, I asked the receptionist to confirm that the person in question was a woman with brown hair and big breasts. She did confirm it, and I explained the situation and what had occurred. The receptionist, who was a bit of a casual pot smoker and knew us from similar groups, agreed to call her some not so nice names. This caused more problems, but it eventually stopped after I warned her that I might report her for taking things, and the vet threatened to involve the police for mistreating of animals. Later on, she moved to another state and married a firefighter. She is now working as an EMT paramedic in Louisiana. where people sometimes joke about marrying cousins. Her wedding invitation hinted at that, and her brother confirmed it. The invitation only mentioned that it was in Louisiana. There might not be much to do there, so maybe family is how they pass the time. I still have messages from her brother, pictures of my cast when I had a broken hand, and I think I saved a document of a police report. That report was about her trying to have my cats put to sleep because she wouldn't return a spare key to my apartment. The police report was related to theft and my cats being my property. I am certain that her brother, with whom she had a rocky relationship, has informed her current husband about her past unfaithfulness. As for the cousin, I don't really know, and I am not interested in finding out. I didn't give him the chance to explain anything because I never saw him again. Yup, I didn't even give her the opportunity to explain either. I decided to cut ties with her completely and indefinitely. Thank you for listening to the video. Please support the channel by hitting the thumbs up and also subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you and have a wonderful day.